Okay, last time we focused on stance, correct alignment, and setup. And what I call that is the pre-shot routine. And I'm only going to do a quick review because today what we want to do is learn about the stroke. All right? But the thing is, you can have the best stroke in the world. I mean, a nice, smooth stroke, level, with loose wrist and accelerating through the ball and all that. But if you don't have correct alignment, it doesn't really matter, does it? So we're going to kind of learn things in the proper order, okay? And I notice a lot of you, have experience playing pool and look pretty good shooting over the ball. But there's certain universal qualities of the stroke that you really would help any player. And we're going to talk about those today. Now, last time, I'm just going to give a basic shot here to review the pre-shot routine. The reason why I emphasize this so much is that when you're in a tournament or a league or playing your friend and you maybe feel a little pressure, you're in the fishbowl of competition, we call it, you sometimes get nervous and you don't think very clearly, okay? But the pre-shot routine is something that puts you in a nice comfort zone, something that you can do every time. Now I have one thing that I do, and yours is going to be different, but let me just give you a few ideas. Like when I see the pool table and an 8-ball rack, that's been broke, I'll walk around the table and chalk my cue, kind of a way of relaxing. And I'll kind of decide, what shot I want to shoot, where I want to get positioned, and I'm trying to kind of get a feel for all that. But once I decide, it's real important to commit totally to what you've decided. If you're halfway this and halfway that, that's a recipe for disaster when you're not specifically have an image in mind that you want to make happen, okay? But the pre-shot routine is pretty simple for me. Chalk my cue, come up with a good plan, breathe and relax, good posture. And one thing that I really want to emphasize is visualizing the actual shot, seeing it in your mind's eye what you want to do. And on this shot, I'm seeing the cue ball stop, all right? Breathe and relax. Find my target, aim point. That's real important. That's the first thing you focus on, almost at the exclusion of everything else. Once I have that target in mind, I'm doing all the hard work where I'm standing up. When I get down on the shot, I'm ready to shoot, okay? All right? So see the target, breathe and relax. Draw that line all the way back, and probably your eyes are the best way of doing that. Some people use their chin or their right toe, but as I step into the shot, I'm going to swing down, and fortunately I got down perfectly. I'm perfectly in line. But if I got down to one side or the other, you want to stand up, adjust your feet, do it again until you get down perfectly on the shot. And that is crucially important, really. So let's go through the whole thing. Chalk my cue. See what I'm doing. Breathe and relax. Find my aim point. Draw it all the way back. Swing down into the shot. Take it through warm-up strokes. And don't move until you hear the ball hit the back of the pocket. That's real important.
I like to stand here and watch you do that, but is that discourteous to stand in?
Oh, no. Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of protocols in pool. You don't want to make distractions when your opponent's at the table. Although a lot of people have no problem with sharking you. So I've been playing league and tournaments for almost 40 years, and I've had many people try to shark and distract me. So in a way, it's almost part of the game. Okay?
Well, I guess it's a compliment if you're in competition.
Yeah. All right. All right. Any questions about that pre-shot routine? Something you can actually practice. And you watch a free throw shooter in basketball. The guys that shoot 90%, they do the same thing every time. It's real important. All right.
I tried practicing that different, and I knew it was different than what I was used to doing
right.
at home, and I kept getting where I was feeling I was going to fall over. I was doing something which was putting me off balance. And I'm not quite figuring out exactly what it was. Is this foot in the wrong place, or is that wicked?
Well, the weight should be pretty evenly distributed with both feet.
But then, before you you move the left foot typically before you.
It's better to stand a little further back so you can step into the shot. That way you have a better perspective of the shot from back. And then as you step in, you want both feet to be pretty much balanced. Because if you're leaning, like I saw Dave do that last night. He was, oh, there he is. Yeah, he was kind of up, leaning on his left side with his right foot in the air. Now, you were out of balance, and we got to work on that. Okay? All right, the stroke.
I got a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Relating to the PSR.
Yeah.
I found myself the other night in league still trying to raise up too quick and use body English to make that shot do what I wanted. And I know that don't work.
No.
How can I break myself from that habit of shooting a shot and trying to jump up and see where it's going?
Oh, that's the $64,000 question. If you could come up with something that would work for everybody, you'd be a millionaire. Yeah. But even somebody like me that's played for 60 years or more, I still jump up. And a lot of times that means that you're not committed to the shot. All right?
It's usually a shot that you missed anyway, that you're jumping up and trying to correct.
You don't feel right over the shot to begin with. You're questioning your alignment or something like that.
You're trying to use mental English to make the ball go this way.
So if I get down on a shot and I say, that's not right, I don't feel confident or whatever, get up, take a deep breath, start over again until you're really committed to what you want to do. All right? And do it. Just like Nike says, do it. All right. All right. Good question, though. And a lot of people that teach the game of pool will say, wait till you hear the ball hit the back of the pocket before anything moves. The only thing that moves is the arm, wrist, hand, and shoulder through the ball. And you want the cue to kind of relax on the claw. That's why I want each of you to pick up a cue right now. We're going to talk about the stroke.
Is it bad practice to let the cue touch the belt? I mean, on the table would you cross like that?
No, not at all.
Damage the ball, damage the belt?
No, you mean like when you stroke through it?
Yeah.
You would have to really dig down to damage the felt. I've seen it happen, but usually that happens when people are trying to draw it and they dig down underneath.
Right.
That's when that would happen.
End up scooping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally that's okay. In fact, when we learn, that's a good question, because when we learn the draw shot, most people actually, when they want to bring the cue ball backwards, they don't hit it low enough. They hit it here. Okay? Why is that bad? Because it's only the top part of the tip that's contacting the cue ball. So to actually hit the lowest part of the ball, you have to get way down by the cloth to make the cue ball draw easier. Because it's only hitting the top, because the cue ball is rounded. Okay? All right.
You ever watch Andy break? When he breaks, he bends, when he shoots, he bends his stick.
Yeah, Andy's a real good player. In fact, we're going to get to the break eventually.
Put the tip on the table and bends the stick forward.
All right, the first thing about the stroke is the grip. It's real important, all right? Now, you can go along with me, but generally, you don't want to squeeze the cue at all right? I think Willie Moscone said that the grip on the cue should be about like holding a paper cup in that light. And you don't want to grab onto it like this. You want to cradle it gently. In other words, the fingers are going underneath and the thumb straight down, but it's a gentle cradle. So the cue actually swings back and forth in your hand. Now, one thing I want you to notice that's real important is that the arm hangs straight down and relaxed. I don't want you doing this or that to start out. You want the arm to be totally relaxed, hanging straight down at 90 degrees. All right? Now, if you watch me real closely, you'll notice the last two fingers are only along for the ride. They're basically not even touching. It's just part of my thumb and these two fingers that's all the holding on to the cue. All right? Now, you want to keep the cue stick level as you stroke, too. That's why it's so important to have a nice light grip. Now, when I say level, what I mean is that when I bring it back, the wrist hinges a little bit and the cue stays low and level. It doesn't, if I grab it too tightly, it comes up and down like I'm sawing wood. You want it to go straight back and level and all the way through. And you notice how the cue goes out of my hand and out the other end. Okay? And that's why pros and good players are so good, because they can do the same thing consistently every time. They don't grab on too tightly. They don't hit the shot, they don't jab it, they don't poke it. A stroke is something where the pendulum, and I call it a pendulum, swings back and it slows down and then goes all the way through and relaxes right on the clock. All right? All the way back, slows down, relaxes on the clock. How many of you have one of those granddaddy clocks that swing with a pendulum on it? Anybody? All right. What happens when the pendulum gets to the back? It slows, right. Too many pool players don't do that, do they? They get back here and then jerk it forward, right? So when you swing it back, it's got to slow down a little bit, right? You don't need to pause, but slow down. And then let the cue go. You don't hit it with your muscles. You let the momentum of the backstroke take over and let the cue swing all the way through. Allow the cue to accelerate. Don't try to make it or try to steer it or anything like that. Swing it back, slow down, let it go. In fact, a better way to describe a stroke is if I had a spear in my hand and I was throwing it underhand. Watch my hand. That's a stroke. This is a hit or a jab or a poke. Stroke, stroke, stroke. Almost like a metronome, if you ever seen one of those. All right, any questions about that so far? All right? And I know, you don't develop a stroke overnight, but it's something in practice, that you can work on. And so we'll look at your stroke today and give you some pointers.
I think it just takes improved confidence.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
what you're doing, because
Yeah.
you're not confident, you hold on tight. Because I'm going to do something wrong if I don't hold on tight.
Exactly. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
On your
Yeah, go ahead.
on your grip at the back, is there a specific place you're supposed to grab it?
Well, here's the balance point, okay? And that's too far forward, isn't it? So I would say 5 or 6 inches behind the balance point, but we're all different sizes, right? So it does vary. Now, I'm 5'9", some of you are shorter or taller. It's going to depend. But the main thing is that you look for is that the arm hangs straight down at 90 degrees like that. So about 5 or 6 inches behind the balance, but it will vary depending on your height. Okay?
Well, it depends on the shot, too. I mean, how far the ball is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you stretch out for a shot, it's going to be different. When it's on the rail, it's a little different. In fact, we're going to talk about that a little today, all right? All right, good. All right, the first drill, and this is in your handout, you don't need to really look at it or anything, but I always tell my classes that the most important shot in pool is the stop shot. Now, why do you think I tell you that? What is it about making the cue ball stop that is so important?
Find the center.
Okay. Yeah, obviously you have to hit the center of the ball. Okay. You definitely
Control.
cue ball control.
And go where you want it to go.
Exactly. And I do need to make a distinction. Now, if you're shooting the 3 ball straight in the corner, that's called a stop shot. Now, if I move the cue ball at an angle on the 3, what is that called?
Stand.
Stun. And that's really the same shot. That would be a stop shot where the cue ball is skinning to the 3 ball and it takes a perfect tangent line because there's no roll back, forward, or backwards. The cue ball is skidding, so it takes a perfect 90-degree tangent line. Okay. But let's go back to the stop shot and talk about that a little bit. On this 3 ball, you'll notice I'm only about 18 inches away from the 3 ball. So to make the cue ball stop, it's really not that difficult, is it? I can hit pretty much the center of the cue ball because I don't need a lot of power. But to make the cue ball stop, the cue ball has to be skidding, sliding along the cloth when it hits the 3. So I'm going to hit this almost perfectly in the center, do my whole pre-shot routine, visualize my aim point, even relax, left foot forward, swing down. And you notice I'm almost perfectly in the center. Stay down to the ball at the back of the pocket.
It spun a little bit after that. Was that bad?
You know,
It just did a little bit of a spin.
You know what? I might have had a slight bit of low on it. All right. And I'm glad you saw that because I want it to just stick right there. That's what I'm trying to do. And maybe I didn't do it perfectly. You know, we're all human, and it's a tough game. All right. Now, when you do this drill on your table, I want you to start out with an easier stop shot. Okay, just this one. And work with your partner and try to get it so you can make that ball just stick right behind the fly. See if I can do a little better this time. Swing down, take a few warm-up strokes. See, that one came backwards a little bit, so I hit it a little bit low. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to practice that. All right? One more time, then we'll do the longer one. But this is fun. You know, this looks like an easy thing to do, but it's not easy. It's not easy. To hit a perfect stop shot is something that will develop your game. But you have to do it from different distances. Okay? Swing down. There we go. That was the one. All right?
Yeah, it's right there. You can put another ball on the spot.
How do you do it longer distance?
Yeah,
that's next. That's next.
No, I mean longer to say clear up.
Oh, we're not. I don't want to go too fast on this. If you could stop it from here, you're doing pretty good. All right. Now, what do I do?
have those players that they'll try and stop the ball, and by the time the cue ball gets there, it's rolling forward instead.
Exactly.
So
that's why you practice this shot, because a lot of games in 8-ball, if you let it roll forward, you'll scratch or you lose position. Okay. Now, what do I do different now on this shot to make it stop from that distance?
a little lower.
Exactly. A little lower. And by going a little lower, I don't have to hit the ball near as hard to make it stop.
Do you lower your cue straight down, or do you come down on the ball?
No, you lower it straight down like that. You want to keep the cue as level as you can. All right? But watch this shot. I'm going to do everything the same. In fact, I'm not even going to hit it that much harder, but I am going to go a little lower so I don't have to use as much speed. So, hold the pre-shot routine, breathe and relax, visualize, draw the line all the way back, swing forward with the left foot. And instead of here, I'm going to go around there. Good. And you know, the amazing thing is that I didn't hit that any harder than I hit this one.
Does it matter how hard you hit it? I mean, if you hit it
Well,
harder or not quite so hard?
You have to accelerate your stroke enough so that cue ball doesn't turn over. Because if it turns over on the way there, it'll roll into the pocket. Follow it in.
You don't hit, yeah, okay.
See, the goal is that the cue ball is sliding right here. See, it would have a little backspin here, but by the time it got here, it was sliding.
Okay.
All right. But, yeah, go ahead.
The bridge should be longer.
Okay, not necessarily on that, because I hit it lower, I could use the same stroke. But this is real important too. If you want more power, Nyla just brought this up. If you want more power, it's a simple formula. If I want to put more power and more velocity on the cue ball, I simply take a longer backstroke and a longer power. In other words, on a lot of shots like that last one, I use a portion of my stroke. But if I have a really hard shot where I need a lot of power, my backswing is going to be would be more like this. My bridge would be further back and everything, and I would take the cue a lot further back. And when I followed through, I would follow through a little bit longer. And that would create more power and velocity with the cue ball. Okay? All right. Any questions about the stroke so far? I mean, you'll have some fun practicing now with your partner after this. Anything? Steve?
No.
How are you on the stop shot? Is that one of your better shots? Or?
It's a shot that I've never perfected or even drilled
Well,
on or tried.
I'm glad you just said that. To be a good
Very
pool,
important.
to be a good pool player, you absolutely have to perfect this. This is the beginning of having a good stroke. Because to make the cue ball stop from different distances, you absolutely have to accelerate all the way through the cue ball with, without, steering or anything like that. Okay? All right, good questions, huh?
Does the,
Yeah.
I know with my wooden shaft, I used to be able to deflect the ball around other balls and
Right.
stuff like that. Does the carbon fiber shaft take that all out of the game?
It kind of does. A lot of good players don't like it anymore because you can't do the subtle things like that. In fact, Scott Frost, one of the best players in Arizona, doesn't use a carbon fiber anymore because he couldn't do the shots that he wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what those light ones are.
Yeah, well, no, those are carbon fiber is like $500 shafts.
But these are just wood, right?
Yeah.
I mean, could be carbon fiber, I don't know.
Well, wood is fine. There are players that like carbon. Oh, do you have one? Oh, okay. All right, cool.
And that's all I've used for the last couple of years.
Really?
But I miss the shots that I used to be able to do that I don't know, you no longer do.
Yeah, I don't believe in carbon fiber. I tried my friends, and I like my Predator shaft the best I've ever used.
Well, what difference does it make?
It
Don't
makes a
break it.
difference like when you have real subtle shots like this. Let's say I have to hit the 7 without hitting the 8, and I have to twist the ball a little bit with English. With a wooden shaft, it's a lot easier than it would be with carbon. So what I could do is elevate the cue with a little bit of right English, like that. And I couldn't.
Throw the cue ball,
Yeah,
the cue ball around
you can
the edge.
manipulate the cue ball a lot more with a wooden shaft.
Why?
Well,
Wood
we need a
flexes more?
we need a physics expert on that one.
Well,
I just know that from playing with the cues. I can't explain it, but I know that.
Is it lighter per square cubic inch or something?
Wow.
It's more flexible, I know that.
Flexibility might be the reason it's like.
And it actually throws that cue ball.
But you can.
They do make low deflection shafts too.
Yeah.
You get a low deflection shaft on wood, and it's different than the carbon fiber too.
Right.
And I got a low deflection. I don't like it.
What do you use, a Z shaft?
Yeah, I think this is one of those. It's really old. You can tell by looking at it. It's been through the mill. No, Predator, the reason why so many good players play with a Predator is because it's the deflection issue. All cues deflect a little bit, but this one is minimal. And you might wonder, what is deflection? Let me explain it real quick. Now, if I'm shooting the cue ball at that pocket, if I use a lot of right English, in other words, hit the right side of the ball, when I first hit it with speed, the cue ball will actually deflect to the left if I use right English. And if I hit it with speed on the left side of the cue ball, it will deflect to the right. So that's why English is so difficult, because you have to compensate when you use English for the deflection. And guess what? If you hit it easy, with English, it curves in the direction of the English. So it's very complex to use English. It takes a lot of practice. All right? All
I
right.
actually make it all the time.
Yeah, good questions though. All right, the next thing would be bridges. A lot of times you have shots like this, and we haven't really talked about this yet.
Get over there, they'll show you how to play.
The kitty, huh?
Yep.
All right, this is real important, and this is probably my pet peeve when I watch people play. They're shooting the 6 in the side pocket, and they get up to the shot, they put their hand on the rail and shoot down like that. All right, why is that bad?
Not level.
Yeah, it's not level. But what happens when you hit down on the cue ball?
The slightest bit of movement
Yeah.
moves that tip.
Exactly. Yeah, when you hit, exactly, Mark. So if you hit down on the ball and I'm off a hair, it'll curve. We call that a masse. So whenever possible, it's always better to have a level cue. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you got to shoot over a ball, or you're real close to the rail and have to stop it. But generally, when you're near the rail like this, the best way to shoot these is to let the cue just rest right on the rail like this, and then put your hand over it. I use my thumb and middle finger. And this is a real effective bridge. Or you could just put your fingers over the cue like that. But this is the way I do it. And it really makes it simple. And not only is it, you don't have to worry about deflection, but you have a better view of the shot. There's no way in the world I can miss this because I see it. My eyes are right over the shaft. But never elevate the cue in these shots. Another shot that comes up a lot, and I'll give you a little hint on it. Sometimes you're elevated over a ball and you have to jack up your cue. Now a lot of times what people do, they just get up there and get their hand like this and get ready to shoot. But a better way to do this is almost act like the one ball's not even there. In other words, get down like this, see exactly your line on the 6 ball. Once you've got your line perfect, move your cue up in the air slightly like that. That way, I'm ready to shoot. All right? In other words, I lined it up like this, and then I elevate the cue. All right? In fact, in league, that probably happens in 8-ball all the time. But trust me, if you line it up like a normal shot, then elevate your cue, you'll be a lot better off.
I caught my wife closing one eye. Is that
Okay,
a
not
bad
good.
idea?
Not good. Because you lose your depth perception when you close one eye.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. Other bridges. Obviously, there's an open and a closed bridge. Both work fine. I'm not going to tell you which one to use. It's interesting that the British people believe that we cheat ourselves, because actually when you have an open bridge like this, there's no visual obstruction. You can see where you're hitting a little better. Put that finger over the shaft, your visual field is more limited. So I'm not going to complain with either bridge. But generally, if you want to use a closed bridge, you want it, the fingers to spread out so you can go up and down like this. Because sometimes you want to hit high, sometimes low, sometimes middle. But with an open bridge, you can do the same thing. Squinch them up like this, but you notice I'm keeping the cue level. Down, lower. Like if I'm going to draw with an open bridge, my hand is almost flat. Okay? And that's how you adjust up and down.
But sometimes there's no room on the table for an open bridge.
Well, let's look at that. Let's say it's like this. And let's say I want to draw the ball. All right? And I'm going to have to shoot over the 6 and there's no room. So what I would do in this case is I would line it up like this. See the perfect line. And then elevate over the top like this. Now I might have to elevate a little more because I'm going to hit the cue ball low. See, I can still draw because I stroked through it like that. And again, we're going to do a little on the draw shot. Don't be afraid of miscuing, all right? And don't be afraid. Watch how easy I hit this and I get a nice draw. And the reason why the cue ball is drawing so well is because I'm hitting it so. Okay, one more. You can put as many balls as you want on there. It doesn't really matter. But this drill is fun because it teaches you to control the cue ball. Now, what I would do if I was doing this drill is I would start out, well, I'll just stop the ball right across from the 3. So I have position on the 3. And then once I master that shot, I'll practice rolling forward to the 6, and then to the 4, and then to the 9, then to the 13, and eventually I'll try to follow it into the pocket. Then I'll work on drawing the cue ball back, draw to the 8, draw to the 5, draw to the 1, draw to the 2, and all the way back into the side pocket.
That assumes the 14 goes in the pocket every time.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't mess up your line.
But I'm not going to go through all this with you, but I just want to show you a few shots. The one I want you to master today is the stop shot. This one I'm close enough so I can get almost perfect center. Now as I follow forward, you'll be surprised how easy it is to follow the cue forward. Now, when I'm hitting a follow shot, in other words, I want to get to the 6, you'll notice my bridge will change. Instead of being here, I'm going to hit it up higher like that. But I'm moving my bridge up like this. See how easy I did that? Stay down until you hear the ball hit the back of the pocket. All right, let's try one all the way to the 13 now. Same thing, only I'm going to need a little more stroke. A little more stroke on this one. I'm going to follow it all the way to the 13. Well, now the challenge is going to be the draw shot. The draw shot's one of the hardest but the sexiest shot in the pool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody likes to see the cue ball come back, isn't it? It's the fun part of the game. But you know, if I'm just going to draw at a short distance, let me try to the 5. Again, it's going to be the length of your stroke that'll determine that and how low you hit it. Almost perfect, yeah. And the fun part.
Why do you say the length of the stroke? You mean the length of the time the cue is in?
Yeah, when I say length of the stroke, if I want more power or velocity, I just go back a little further and go through a little further. All right? In other words, you use portions of your stroke, depending on how much power and velocity you have. Now, the one that's fun to do is to try to draw it back right to the pocket. And this time I'll have to accelerate more, but I want to hit it nice and low. And I want to accelerate all the way through. I had to move my cue out of the way. But that's a lot of fun. If you can master this drill, you know, it's a good thing to work on. And we're going to learn another drill in a later class called the L drill. It's even harder than this one. All right, any questions on that? I want you to practice stop, follow, and draw. Now, I know I haven't covered draw to any great extent, but as I come around, feel free to ask me any questions about that, okay?
I've got one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm not sure that we're there yet. But
Yeah.
is there a way on a rail shot to make a stop shot?
Oh, yeah, we call that, I'll show you that.
Squeeze up and down.
Oh, you mean when the cue ball's on the rail?
When the cue's on the rail and you need to shoot and make a stop shot, or they're similar?
Well, Mark, it's not advisable to do that, and I'll tell you why. Your chances of making the ball, hitting a stop shot when the cue ball's on the rail are very slim. It's a very low percentage shot. The reason
suppose that object ball was in the pocket.
Oh, if it's hanging in the pocket.
And you need to shoot it, but you need that cue ball not to follow it.
Oh, okay. Now you're saying a shot like this?
Yeah, and you're on the rail.
Instead of trying to stop it, I would cheat the pocket.
Okay.
In other words, I would hit the 4 on this side and I would still make it. But the shot I would recommend against would be trying to, let's say I want to make the 4 and stop the cue ball for the 6.
Right.
Well, in order to actually make the cue ball stop, I would have to do this. I'd have to elevate way up to here.
Right.
And I'd have to slide my hand down the cue. because my shoulder and arm and everything are kind of awkward. And you get it to stop, see how hard that is?
Yeah.
In fact, a professional player wouldn't even do that. They would just roll the ball in and take whatever position they got. Because that's a low percentage shot. This would be a high percentage shot where I'm just, you know, hitting a level cue. I'm just going to roll it straight in like that.
Well, you see it happen so many times that a ball will be in the pocket.
Yeah.
And the player will be on the rail with the cue.
Right.
And they're trying to make that ball, and they'll inevitably follow it in.
Well, I would always say cheat the pocket and hit it nice and easy. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
It'd be completely, how far the cue ball goes after hitting the object ball it would be determined by how fast it is.
Yeah. Right.
You would have to make the cue ball die on that ball and yet hit it enough so that it just...
That's exactly right, Steve. Like on a shot like this, let's say that I have to hit it head on. Now you're hitting a ball head on. So it's going to, you know, that's a lot of weight resistance, isn't it? So it's going to slow down. So if I hit a shot like this, and let's say I had a window.
Yeah, it would be because...
Like this. So what I would do in a shot like this is I'd just hit it real easy. So it wouldn't call when I'd hit it like this.
Just enough to get
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And that curve, you notice.
Didn't matter. You got it in.
Anyway, good questions. I have a couple other things in the handout, but one other thing I might tell you, this will help you read. I missed an 8-ball in the league the other day. I lost a game and I was kind of upset. I'll even show you the shot. I didn't get far enough and I ended up right here. And I needed to make the 8 to win the game. And I undercut it, I hit it there and it hung up in the pocket. But the reason why I wanted to show you this is because you always overcut these shots. You want to overcut them, and I'll tell you why. When you're cutting a ball that thin, you're actually putting English on the 8. When I hit it this thin, it turns the ball like that, which moves it over to this side of the pocket.
Rotation.
Exactly.
Across the felt.
Exactly. So when you have a shot like this, you want to make sure to overcut it to here, because otherwise you'll hit the point and it'll hang up. So let me show you how I should have shot it. Instead, I hit it like this, but I should have hit it like this. In other words, I'm cutting it significantly more now. And a dead center here. See, I was aiming it way over here. But when you cut it that thin, you're actually pushing the ball, putting spin on it.
Does it matter the quality of the felt? So on?
Yeah, all those things matter. Even humidity matters. There's all kinds of variables.
Now, when you shot that,
Yeah,
if you hit the 8, the 8's going to spin this way, right?
exactly.
Which makes it go that
No,
way.
no,
No,
no.
it goes
No, it
left.
goes the other. It goes this way.
Really?
Let me show you how that works.
Besides that,
Stand behind the pocket. If I hit, now, when the cue ball contacts the tube, it turns it like that. So it puts left to right English. Left to right English turns it that way. But it's also marked, it's also the collision. When you hit a ball like this, there's friction between the cue ball and the 9 ball. The friction, the grab between the cue ball and the 9 pushes it a little this way. So there's two things working against you on a thin cut. You really want to make sure you're aiming more to the point rather than here.
Okay.
And you'll make a lot more, trust me.
Or scratch.
All right, well, you know. All right, are we ready to partner up and play? Have more questions? That's fine, whatever you want to do.
you cover pretty much everything.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes when I ask you a question, it's, I don't know if it's beyond where we're at.
Oh, that's okay, I don't mind, yeah. All right, have at it.